Okay, thank you. Everything you said is irrelevant to the law of love that I've explained, and I've said
I don't doubt that.
It's falsifiable in the fact that if you can give me an example of life that exists without giving, you falsified the law.
No, Luke.
And I can give that example.
Even if you could give that example, it doesn't falsify the law because first you have to actually establish and define this. You can't just call a foundational principle of the natural order a law of love. Hey, guess what? When I drop this, stop.
Call it what you
Stop. When I drop this pen, it's going to fall. That's something we can test for and falsify it. But I don't get to call that process love and attribute it to a God. That's the part that you can't test for.
What you're talking about is an assumption. And it's a baseless assumption if it doesn't have evidence.
You admitted earlier that you didn't have evidence for it.
I admitted I didn't have evidence for the law of love.
You didn't.
Okay, Webster's definition defines the law as I'm using it. It's a statement of an order or
you're
relation
done, Luke.
of a phenomenon.
Luke, congratulations. Luke, congratulations, you're done. And I'll tell you why, so that next time when you call in, you don't make this mistake. Dictionaries describe usage. And when we're talking about philosophical issues of epistemology, and when we're talking about scientific investigation and the nature of laws, you don't just have to pull up Webster's as if it's going to add some validity to your logical fallacies. You made arguments from analogy, you started changing around labels, and you have convinced yourself that this is all evidence. And what you're actually engaged in is a grand argument from ignorance. You look around at the world and you see order, and you simply can't think of any other way that this order could exist without making an appeal to a God. It's an argument from ignorance, and it's demonstrable. And I don't care if you pull up Webster's, Funkin' Wacknalls, or Rand McNally and draw a map. It doesn't add to your argument. If you're not going to put out things that add to your argument, you're done.
You've also said that it was a law. A law is demonstrable without faith. You said it was falsifiable and then admitted that it clearly was not. It should be, you've failed the criteria that you yourself have laid out. And then the only evidence of any sort, the only indication that you ever had, the only thing that you said ever implied at this point to you at all was a misinterpretation of a passage in an old storybook that you then later admitted was a metaphor. I think you need to rethink your position.
I didn't admit it was a metaphor.
Yes, you did. And fortunately, these shows are recorded so that you can go back and play it and say, aha, that's where I did it.
I'll even let you off the hook and just say that in the confusing circumstances, you said something that you can later take back if you don't think it was a metaphor. It's neither here nor there. You present something that has your argument has no teeth, no evidence, and when called on it, you first admit there's no evidence, then you try to present something, then you're going to dictionaries.
No, I said I have no evidence that life existed before where animals didn't have to kill each other. That's all I say. The law itself is separate to what I say then.
It's not a law just because you say it's a law. Something doesn't become true just because I say it's true. Look, I'm surrounded by naked cheerleaders. It doesn't work that way.
A law is a statement of fact that is verifiably accurate under all circumstance or under a given set of circumstances by all observers. You're definitely not talking about that.
By you and everyone. Everyone could have observed what I've said. Everything needs to give, otherwise they die.
If it is a law, it will be observable by everyone.
The things that you're observing and the examples you provided, I agree. They are consistent with what you're saying. And what I'm saying in response to that is, so what?
You believe that...
Hang on.
Okay.
You have provided examples of something. That in and of itself is not sufficient to establish that there is a law with a designed purpose, which is your intent here. If all you're saying is that there is order in the universe, we already agreed with that. If all that you're saying is that in the circle of life there is life and death, we already agreed with that. What we're saying is you can't get from here to here. You can't get from the bee takes pollen from the flower in order to pollinate another flower and then say, this is because some intelligent being created a law that this is the way things work. You can't get from A to B.
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to go gradually and show you that there's another law additional to the law of love.
But the law of love doesn't exist, and you did say that earlier. Go back and watch this show again.
Okay.
You did.
We have two options. Either natural, either they came about naturally, or they came about by an intelligent designer. And if I can demonstrate...
Well, actually, we have only one option that's ever been indicated. We've seen that evolution happens. We know that it happens. We can measure it. We can watch it in real time, in real life, under controlled conditions. There's no question about that. Evolution happens. Your options are that if there is a God, the intelligent designer drives evolution. Or if there is not a God, that's okay, because evolution doesn't need it.
In fact,
you're adding a completely... Hold on now. You're adding a superfluous assumption, one which you admit is based on fables in lieu of evidence.
Okay, you are free to believe as you wish, and so am I.
Well, thank you.
And
I'm glad I got permission from Luke.
Yeah, and I was just presenting to you what makes me, what I observe and see, and then look at this and then think.
The sad thing, Luke, is that you didn't present me what makes you believe that.
You know what?
You have an assumed conclusion, but you never explained why you assume your conclusion.
Your whole argument, and I know you won't see it this way, but honestly, this is accurate, can be distilled to, I look around and see this, and I can't think of anything better to explain it than God. Well, guess what? That's not an argument.
And it certainly isn't a law.
Yeah. And on that, I guess you can try again another week. I got to go. We only got 25 minutes left in the show, and there's people still waiting on hold. As a reminder, we'll be going to Threadgills after the show's over. 301 West Riverside Drive. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come down and join the show. You don't have to be a member to do that. And we'll be down there having dinner, and you can join us as well. We've got Jeremy in St. Charles. How you doing?
Hi. I had two questions, if I could. My first was, I think that there's a lot of bias in the American media in regards to favoring Christianity. And did you guys see this ABC News story?
Yep.
Okay, so you already know what I'm talking about?
I already wrote about it.
Okay, well, it fails to mention that the robbery didn't stop because the woman was talking about faith.
Correct.
It stopped because he thought he was going to have to pay for the money he stole. Well, not him, but the woman would.
Correct. It's exactly what I wrote on my Facebook yesterday.
Yeah, and it spends like 5 minutes talking about how the woman talked to him about like Jesus and her faith, which is true, but it spends 5 minutes talking about that, and then it spends 5 seconds mentioning the fact that he went off and robbed another store.
Oh, I hadn't heard that part yet.
Yeah, he went off and robbed another store, and that's when they caught him. So it even...
Yeah,
so
the headline...
Like, even bring up that, and it mentions like the other thing for like 5 minutes.
The headline was "Woman Stops Robbery with Faith," and it should have been "Compassionate Woman Stops a Robbery with a Lie."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have another similar story from about a month or so ago. I think it was about a month or so ago. Could have been a little bit longer, but we have Jack Sparrow. I forget the name of the actor right now. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. But the guy who played Jack Sparrow is mugged in an alley, and then he's recognized.
Johnny Depp.
Got Johnny Depp. And when the mugger realized who he was, no, I'm not going to rob you. I'm not going to steal from Captain Jack, and left. So there you go. The power of pirate movies.
I mean, and how stupid is that? Because if anybody could afford to be mugged, it'd be Johnny Depp. I mean, the guy's loaded. All right, what was your other thing?
Oh, my question was, it was about like news coverage. There's been a lot of news coverage over a Muslim mosque that is being built 2 blocks away from where the World Trade Centers fell. I don't know if you've heard about this or not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the city of New York is trying to stop them from building it, and it seems to me that the media is kind of promoting it. And even though I think anyone can easily understand why this is a sensitive issue, well, the Constitution says that the government will make laws that hold a neutral standpoint on religion, and I mean, I don't understand how that can happen. I'm kind of in favor of like the mosque being built, and you might disagree with that, and that's fine. I was just kind of wondering what your guys' opinions are. on that?
My take's really simple. If they allow any religious organizations to build buildings there, then they have to allow all of them. And if
that's what I was.
And if they're going to prohibit one, then they got to prohibit all of them.
Now, if you're what you're talking about the American news media being biased, and I think actually the word you were looking for in this particular instance is sensationalist. Yes, absolutely, it's a travesty. Yeah. Our journalism has completely gone down the toilet. It's a worldwide shame. And the people in other countries, I mean, I talk to international people all the time who reflect that if you want to know what's really going on in America, you watch news in another country.
Yeah,
they know more about our history than we do as well.
The news station that won the coverage for the best coverage on the American war was the BBC.
Yep.
Bingo.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, the sad thing is that, if I'm honest, I'm as guilty of perpetuating the problem as anybody. Because the reason that story was titled, Woman Stops Robbery with Faith is because that's what sells. It not only gets the faith heads to buy the paper, but it gets us riled up and talking about it.
Yeah.
So they're just being, that's how you make money. If they'd have written the headline that I suggested, Compassionate Woman Stops Robbery with a Lie, probably wouldn't have got much press at all. I mean, you have to manufacture a story. And it would be nice if there were more. There are plenty of journalists with integrity, and there are plenty that find stories that don't have to be manufactured. But the general public, including I'm no exception, dig on some sensationalism.
Yeah,
and
I've been interviewed on the TV news a number of times, and every time that the news has covered some event of my life, they've gotten the details wrong. Every time.
Oh yeah.
I mean, journalism is at least inaccurate, but then when it goes to as you said, to sensationalize and gets into the whole Fox News thing, where they're just it becomes a show, and you can't rely anymore on what you're seeing because you're not getting an account of what's really going on. You're getting opinions of what's going on, and to a degree that's fine as long as you can get a counter opinion to weigh against that and make your own mind. Now, enough said about that.
All right, real quick, we've got. In San Antonio, is it Samer?
Hello?
Yeah, can you give me your name again? I'm not sure this is right.
Samer?
Samer?
Yeah.
Okay. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Well, actually, I'm an ex-Muslim. I consider myself now as an agnostic, but leaning towards atheism. Anyway, I actually had a couple of debates with some theists, especially in the physics field. Well, they claim that God existence was not proved, but, supported by one of the most brilliant physicists in history, which is Sir Isaac Newton. So since Isaac Newton had written lots of books and articles about religion, well, that would pretty much support their claim. And I actually have no explanation. What I know, he was raised in a religious family, Newton, but he didn't even become an agnostic. He was a strong believer, theologian.
Yeah, Newton was batshit crazy about a few things, actually.
So you have an explanation about this? Why?
Into alchemy type stuff at a time. I actually had that wrong. In any case, your friends are wrong. The fact that Newton believed in God doesn't add any more credibility to the God claim than anybody else who's ever believed in God. It's an appeal to an authority, and a fallacious one, because Newton hasn't demonstrated any expertise on the God subject. And with regard to his belief in God, I think he was wrong.
Yeah. Well, don't you think that he looked at it from a scientific point of view?
No. He didn't look at God from a scientific point of view. But then, in his time, they didn't evaluate things in terms of natural versus supernatural. Okay, and they just assumed, as they'd been taught, that everything that happened, regardless what it was part of God's way. So whatever they found would be something that had to be something that God did. The motions of the universe, for example, when they started challenging the movements of the planets and geocentricity, for example, when they started realizing that the universe does not rotate around the Earth, and still many people still believe that it does. But when they started challenging in that, I mean,
why I'm
they weren't yet. The scientists at that time were not worshiping Scripture, even if they were worshiping God. There was a distinction.